Well, hopefully the intro music has not been overwhelming yet. We are Prepper Talk Radio here at K-Talk AM 1640.
Radio for the ready-minded.
Yes, radio for the ready-minded. This is Scott and Shane, and we're excited to be here for an hour today, and we're grateful that you guys are listening in. Hopefully we have something that you will find will help you to be better prepared today. And we've been having some fun phone problems. This is the cool thing. It's like you think it's going to go crazy when the apocalypse hits. You try to answer a phone in a radio station. My word.
Now, you should see our control board here. We're very old school, very old, low tech here, and I think this control board, the soundboard, is from the 80s or even the 70s. It's still completely analog, but it works.
Yes, it does.
Most of the time.
It does, and most of the time, yes, and we work most of the time also.
That's right.
So
we're perfectly happy with it.
We've got a fun show today. We've actually got some dear friends of ours, David and Beth Pruitt, who are actually on vacation. They're taking time from their vacation to work, just like we're working today. And they're joining us. They're with AMP3. I'm going to see if I can bring them on the line. Let's see if this works. Beth, could you hear me?
I heard something there.
I heard it click. I think I lost something. Oh, no.
No.
Tech Sport's coming in. The genius. The producer.
Oh, we are having issues. Keep trying. We're trying. Right?
I don't know. We're
lock in that VIP.
I'm watching buttons change colors and flash. And Beth, are you on?
I am.
Oh, yay! We got you. Woohoo! Well, welcome to the show. Sorry for the whack-a-mole, all the craziness that we've got going on over here.
Hey, no problem.
It is good to have you here. Now, for those of you who don't know Beth and her husband David, they started and created AMP3. AMP-3.net. You can follow them on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. They're also on Pinterest. Go search for them. You guys are awesome. The thing that I love about you guys, besides and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what you do, but the thing I love about you guys is you're just good people.
Oh, thanks.
You're welcome. And you guys got into preparedness to help. So, without me stealing the thunder, for our listeners and for Shane and I, because we love hearing the story.
We love stealing thunder.
Yeah, we're thunder stealers. If you could tell our listening audience first of all, what AMP3 stands for, because I know it has a meaning, but why you guys got into this, what drew you to doing AMP3?
Okay. So AMP3 stands for the Austere Medical and Practical Preparedness Project. That's AMP-3. And we actually got into preparedness for two reasons. First of all, we grew up in the Santa Cruz area, Santa Cruz, California, which is actually where we are now. And we had two major disasters happen to us in a very short period of time. So in 1982, we were living up on 10 acres in kind of the middle of nowhere, and we had a 100-year flood, 24 inches of rain in 24 hours.
Wow.
And if you live in the mountains, that's a lot of water coming down at one time. And we had a major flood taking out our roads. I mean, we had down redwood trees. It was pretty crazy. And so for a week, we were kind of living on our property with no power, no water.
Only the food we had.
Only the food that we had. And
a mulching toilet.
And we also had like an outdoor shower, and we had a composting toilet. So we were kind of living off-grid before off-grid was cool.
Wow.
I'm jealous.
Yeah, Shane and I are looking at each other like, that sounds pretty awesome.
Could you please come back to Utah and sit down and talk with my wife and try and help me convince her to live more of this type of lifestyle?
So you guys were living it and before it was really even a hip phrase, right? People were
right.
Preparedness. Right. I mean, the prepper term, I've been able to trace it back to World War II, but it wasn't like a commonly used phrase. It wasn't a commonly used term, and it's kind of evolved. But it really was just being self-reliant, being prepared.
And where it really started out was the word weirdos.
Yeah. Well, then Doomsday Preppers TV show came and hijacked it,
made it more weird,
made us all crazy. Well, made us look crazy. Didn't make us crazy. I was crazy like a fox before this.
Right.
And they just were like, "Hey, let's dangle this carrot and make it look insane."
But I think also preppers, even more so now, people have very short memories, and so if you consider yourself a prepper, you're weird, you're crazy, you're out of touch, right?
Right. Well, I guess so. But I mean, we're pretty normal people as far as I'm concerned.
And our founding fathers were not weird people, and they were self-reliant. And preppers, it was just a normal thing.
Well, the normalcy of the day is that our founding fathers were pretty weird. I mean, that's what they're trying to tell us.
Well,
right?
yeah, that's the media message. Is those guys
exactly.
were crazy. We don't need those things anymore. We don't need the Second Amendment. Let's throw that out.
Let's put
We don't need
everything
the First Amendment.
Right.
Let's throw that out. Like,
where those of us who try to become more self-reliant, more self-sufficient, and are trying to improve, we tend to move toward that. We're not moving away from it. And those who want others to take their problems upon them, or don't want to be responsible for their own problems, they're the ones who are to the left.
those
right?
are the ones we look at as crazy.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not just the left. Like, I've got some very conservative people.
No, you're right.
Like, in my own family, they're very conservative, but they're like, well, the government can take care of things. That's what my taxes are for. And
I think
it baffles me. I'm like, wait, what? You think your taxes are to take care of you later? Like, oh,
you know
dear
what?
sweet child.
The truth is, and I know we're going off on a tangent here, is that the taxes you pay, regardless of where they come from, do not benefit you one bit.
Right.
No, they definitely don't.
They
don't. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the beautiful thing is like the work that you put in, like homesteading, gardening, taking care of livestock, like the work that you put in yields results, right? Unless there's a disaster that stops it, it will yield results. You put seeds in the ground, you fertilize it, and you water it, you'll have plants grow, and you'll have food grow. And there's something that's just fantastic about being able to put your hands and your feet into the dirt and actually grow something there.
Yeah. So the property that we lived on that had the flood was actually 10 acres, and our vegetable garden was a good 3-acre size.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, it was huge. And so we were pretty self-reliant back then, and it wasn't really, it was cool for us because we loved it, but it wasn't the norm.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
And now it's kind of trendy. Like, now everyone's like, oh, are you homesteading yet? That I love that because it's a whole new group, and they're learning and they're trying different things, and but I mean, this is what our ancestors, what you guys did, like, and I want to get to, and Shane wants to get to, is living that lifestyle every day. It's not easy, but man, it's well worth it. So
it definitely takes work.
It's good work,
but it is good work.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wanted to kind of preface our discussion here a little bit. Is September, as you probably already know, David and Beth, is National Preparedness Month.
Mm-hmm.
And so having you on is the perfect, I think, kickoff to this month since it starts tomorrow. We're going to be talking a little bit about first aid and probably first responders, because it's more, National Preparedness Month has to do with more disaster preparedness, right? Exactly what you're talking about, 100-year flood. And then in our second segment, we're going to get into more the emergency communications aspect of it, which you guys do both extremely well.
Thank you. We try.
I think you do very well. Like, and so for those that want to follow you guys, you've got both AMP3 and, I'm going to mess it up, USNRC? No. What's
USNERDOC. So USNERDOC.
Oh, that's right. USNERDOC.
And that's .net as well?
And that's, do you have a website for that, or is that just the YouTube channel?
Just the YouTube.
David
okay.
has a channel, but that, because he was in the Navy for 11 years, that was his kind of call sign in the Navy.
USNERDOC.
Yeah.
I got it.
Password.
Okay.
Don't
I
say
hope you
that.
change those.
Now everybody knows. Great.
Everybody knows.
So you've always had kind of the feeling of responsibility, feeling of patriotism, feeling of helping others. And so is that where this drive came to create AMP3 and help other people? Like, what was the driving force in creating that company?
Okay. So David would make this little first aid kit called an IFAC, an individual first aid kit, And he gave that away to everybody. When he was in the Navy, when he was on the fire, because David was a fireman for 10 years before he went to medical school.
Oh, wow.
Before he went into the Navy. So he would make this little first aid kit and give them away. And I said, he had his YouTube channel, and I said, you should make those and sell those and make one of those YouTube things and promote it, called videos, and promote that on that YouTube thing. And he's like, yeah, no one would ever buy them. And I said, well, how do you know? Why don't you build 10 and try and sell them and see what happens? Well, he built 10. He did a little video, had, putting these IFACs up on my YouTube channel, and the first 10 sold in an hour.
Wow. Nice. Now, Beth, I really need you to come sit down with my wife, because I love your attitude. I have these same types of ideas, and it just doesn't seem to work out the same as the two of you have worked out on this business of yours. I love it.
Well, Beth's an anomaly.
Okay.
Like, Beth, you're like one of the sweetest people I know, but you're also like, get it done. Like, you're a hardworking, driven individual. So that's the conundrum that is you. Like, you usually aren't going to find someone that's as driven as you are, but that's also so sweet and kind and just bubbly.
You guys are nice.
Well, that's why I love working with you guys and getting the opportunity. Like, we met through PrepperCon, 4 years ago.
4 years ago, yeah.
And from the minute I met you, I was like, oh my gosh, this lady's cool. And then I didn't even get to meet Dave until we're closing. David, Beth comes up and she's like, you got to meet my husband. You got to meet my husband. And I remember that because I was just like, yeah, cool lady. Yeah, husband. Where? And I'm like, oh yeah, you taught the Stucher classes. Like that day, like those 2 days, I'd been on probably 6 hours of sleep for the last 5 days. So it's like operating like a drunk person, right? If I'd have driven, it'd have been a DUI for sure.
A angry drunk person.
An angry drunk person. But it was like the end of the day on a Saturday. We just closed the doors at 8 o'clock. It was like 9:40, and you grabbed me, and I was in that beginning to go loopy, lofty, wherever. Like my brain's like, woo, I survived, Yep. And I was just like, man, these people are cool people. Like these people, like great people. Like this is that. Having that interaction with you and having that interaction with the people that were saying thank you for this event, that was like everything I needed to be able to do it again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it wouldn't have, honestly, it wouldn't have happened again if it weren't for people like you that were so touched by the whole event and saw the purpose behind it.
Well, you guys behind the scenes, because that is, I think Beth and I tell people that's like the best prepper show that we go to.
It's our favorite event because it's well organized, and the people who run the event are, Scott and Jesse and, the whole family.
How they do that.
Yeah, and how you guys do it and put it together, and it's just amazing. And we actually had friends come from Oregon to the last PrepperCon, and they loved it.
Awesome. Well, it's very kind of you to say it was organized, because from behind the scenes,
it didn't seem like it just
I felt like I was in the middle of a paintball fight and that I was standing there in my underwear just getting shot. Like I felt completely vulnerable, and for it to survive was phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you.
The educational part of what we do is, we sell products, but more important to David and I is really the education part of, showing somebody a skill or sharing things.
We're about to hit a break. Let's pause that for a second. Let's really get into the showing people the skills when we get back from this break. For those of you listening in, hang tight. We're here with Beth and David Pruitt with amp-3.net and USNER doc. So hang out, stay back, come back. We'll be right back.
Cool off with a splash of...
Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio, radio for the ready-minded with Scott Shane, and we've got our guests from AMP3, Beth and David Pruitt, and we started talking about kind of why they got into this, and man, the show goes so fast. I want to jump into first aid. Why does every family and every individual need a first aid kit? From your perspective, from your opinion, from your experience, why is that so important? Why is everyone forgetting to do it?
That's a great question. Mainly because accidents happen, and you don't get a warning like today at 3 o'clock someone's going to get injured, So you have this is just part of that self-reliant, be prepared mentality. And a good first aid kit is just one of those many bricks that you put in your wall of preparedness. And we got into this because when I would look at first aid kits that you would buy from the store, they were always inadequate. They were lacking certain things, or they had cheap items that were not reliable. And you have to realize that kit is something that you're going to put your, that's going to save somebody's life or help somebody in a time of need. That's not when you want to have something cheap that doesn't work well.
Now, David, explain to us what components should be in a good quality first aid kit.
Sure. So I think, the first thing that we all think of when we think of first aid is, of course, bleeding. So you need to have some items to take care of bleeding. In my mind, you need 4x4 gauze pads. You need a pair of gloves, one to keep yourself safe and also the person you're going to be helping safe. You need some gauze, roller gauze. Ideally, I think it's good to have a trauma pad, or I tell people when we do those classes at PrepperCon, you don't need to spend a lot of money to do this. You can go to the dollar store, Walmart, get maxi pads and 4-inch ace wrap, and you've got yourself a good pressure dressing.
Kind of like an Israeli bandage.
And exactly. Ideally, I like an Israeli bandage, but if you say I don't want to spend the money or I don't have that kind of money, then you can improvise. And the Israeli bandage, its heritage is drawn from a trauma pad or a maxi pad and a ace wrap bandage. I think along with that, you want a good pair of sturdy scissors. EMT scissors are probably the best, but anything sturdy would do. Some adhesive tape. I'm giving away all of our secrets here.
And you can build. I mean, here's the thing though. Like, you can go build this, right? And it'll take you a while, and you'll have to go check different places to get the quality stuff. You can't just go down to like a Dollar General because you're going to get the garbage.
Quality's not going to be.
You can't just go down to Walmart because the quality's not there, right? You've got to go to medical supply to get this stuff.
Right, and you're going to be going to several stores to put all this stuff together. Duct tape, as you guys know, is an important thing to have in a first aid kit because you can do a lot of things with that. And then some sort of splinting material. You can go to our website, and even our most expensive kit that we have, the Outfitter, we call it a clinic in a roll. If you want to build it yourself, you can download the list and just go and do it.
Yeah, awesome.
Put items together.
I'm of the mindset I would rather just buy it. Let's be honest. Well, like, if I'm building my personal, like my get home bag or my bug out bag, like whatever you want to call it, like that, I love to build all the components myself until I get to the first aid kit, and I want to trust someone that I trust to do it, because I'm not as medically inclined as I'd like to be, and so I've taken some first aid classes. I've done CPR certifications. And I keep missing your suturing class, so the next time you're in town, that's one of my goals.
Well, we got to get you there.
I mean, there's so many things like that you could need or may not need that an ER doc's going to have a much better grasp on that than I am. And so that's one of the things I love about it. And you guys have a sale going on right now. Looks like 15% off site-wide. So if you guys go to amp-3.net, and the promo code is SUMMER at checkout, and you'll save 15% on everything.
Now, David, I noticed that there's one thing you didn't say that is not in this kit, or maybe it is, but you haven't said it. Excuse me. Are Band-Aids, right? This is not a boo-boo kit. This is a trauma kit. And I think when we think of first aid, we think, okay, Band-Aids and some Neosporin, right, and some of those things, which are nice to have. I mean, they're good to have. But when it comes down to saving a life, it's these larger, like you say, the gauze, the 4x4s, the Israeli-type bandage, the trauma stuff that are going to save somebody's life.
Correct. And I do think you need a good boo-boo kit, without a doubt. You need some Band-Aids, you need antibiotic liners, et cetera. But what we were just talking about is, as you said, dealing with life-threatening injuries.
You're kind of breaking up a little bit. Can you get a little closer to the phone?
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that.
There we go.
What we were talking about is the life-threatening injury, trauma, and stop the bleeding. So another good thing that's happening nationwide right now, and you can Google this, but there's a nationwide mandate to teach the lay person how to use tourniquets.
Oh,
and I think needs to know how to use one, how to improvise one, and have one readily available. And you can go to, I'm doing this from out in the middle of nowhere right now, but I think it's stopthebleed.org, and you can, there's a mandate to teach the layperson how to use a tourniquet. And there's a lot of myth about tourniquets, but you could save somebody's life with a tourniquet and learning how to do it. So not only having the kit, but the other thing that goes along with a good first aid kit is what you were talking about earlier, and that is some knowledge and education.
Yeah, and I think previously tourniquets were kind of reserved for the last effort. The last thing you want to try is a tourniquet, and that's not necessarily the actual truth. That's not
right.
The way that medicine's practiced anymore.
The thinking on that is totally backwards now. So that actually is one of the first steps that you do is stop that life-threatening hemorrhage. You can put a tourniquet on and save somebody's life, and they can stay on for quite a while before they get to actual help. So I think the key thing is not to be hesitant and know how to apply them correctly. You could actually save somebody's life if you're ever in that situation.
Now, I pulled up the website. It's actually dhs.gov/stopthebleed.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So for those listening in, dhs.gov/stopthebleed.
Stop the bleed. And if you Google that, there actually is a couple of other programs that are similar and parallel that are doing the same thing.
Oh, great. Very nice.
Yeah, let's see what else we've got there. So there's there's quite a few. Wow, there's a lot of different groups doing that. So bleedcontrol.org. I mean, that's the cool thing. There's so many options you can go out to and get some good education so that you can be better equipped. I think blood loss is one of the fastest ways we're going to lose somebody in a situation.
It's the
ABCs.
It's the thing that's going to kill somebody.
Yes.
Airway, breathing, circulation.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, as this relates to, I guess, National Preparedness Month, I think first responder, right? Is there anything different between your IFAC and say a first responder kit?
Yeah. So that's a good question. So our IFAC is really a first aid kit on steroids, kind of like the Boo Boo kit we talked about. That spans the Boo Boo kit and the trauma kit. It kind of sits right in the middle.
Okay.
We actually have another kit that we put out. Beth and I kind of noticed all these shootings that are reported everywhere, and we put together a first responder kit, which is basically the things that you need like right now. And I think everybody should have this in your range bag. I carry one in my briefcase or in each of our cars. But it's what I call the critical triad. So it's Israeli trauma dressing and a pair of gloves and a SWAT tourniquet. And I would add to that trauma shears, and I would add to that some hemostatic agent of choice. But you really need to be able to apply a pressure dressing and stop that bleeding.
Okay, so you call it the critical triad, which is, like I said, the gloves.
When I do that, is the hemostatic agent, a trauma dressing of your choice, and a tourniquet of your choice.
Okay,
There's a lot of tourniquets on the market. You know, it's like, to me, it's like IBM and Apple. Pick your poison, but learn how to use it.
Okay, excellent.
That's a great point. It's interesting. I mean, because you've also got other products that you guys sell. I mean, you've got emergency dental. I mean, you've got Wilderness Deluxe kits. You've got the range bag, but then you also go into the radio and communications side of things. And I want to touch on that because we don't have a whole lot of time left.
Yep.
Like, you're a ham operator and you're a radio aficionado. Like, what are we missing out on? What do we need to be doing to maintain communication? In a disaster or a grid down scenario. Like, why did you focus on radio as well? Why is that so important?
Sure, I'll be quick on that. So the other big disaster that Beth was talking about that we were involved in was the earthquake here. I think they call it the San Francisco earthquake, but the epicenter was Loma Prieta, which was how many miles from us? 4 miles from us. And there was no communications. And I remember running down to the fire department, and we had a lady drive I think it was her husband, in the back of a Subaru, clutching his chest. Now that I'm a doctor, I'm thinking back, that probably was, heart attack in process. But we tried to get on the radio to, activate an ambulance, and there was so much traffic of people talking, you couldn't get on the air, and there were no phones. And I think we took away from that, the learning point is that communications is critical during any disaster. And I think the best tool for most people that are involved in preparedness that's going to give you the most bang for the buck is amateur radio. Get your license. I would recommend getting your general license. That's going to give you UHF, VHF, and HF, which is going to give you the ability to communicate outside your local area to stay in touch.
And we all have ours.
Oh, fantastic! I've been trying to study for that on my own for a while, and it is. I keep trying to sign up for this class locally.
Yeah, I'm supposed
and the guy keeps canceling it.
And I'm supposed to be pushing on that.
Are you in Salt Lake?
I'm in Salt Lake, yeah, and I keep going. There's one in Provo, which is about an hour and 10 minutes south of where I live in Bountiful, and the guy keeps canceling because not enough people sign up. So I'm like, I've got to rally the troops, and I've got to get everybody down there at one time to make it happen.
Go do it with friends, but BYU, I believe it's every Saturday or every other Saturday. I just know this from talking to folks when we go to Salt Lake. BYU has a program where they do that on the weekends.
That's the one that keeps canceling.
Oh, okay.
I know. I'm like, duh, come on.
That just tells you how the mindset of everybody right now. Everybody's comfortable, right? They're expecting that everything will continue on and nothing's going to go wrong, and that, again, Trump's going to take care of us, even if there's an earthquake or a natural disaster of some sort. We're going to be taken care of, but that's not the case. And what's the truth really is that when there is an emergency, I think most of these, even the federal teams and such, rely on the local resources of, say, people like you and me, with our ham radio networks and such.
Right, and I'm on the disaster committee at our hospital, and we rely on amateur radio for our backup communications. And we had a weather event a few years ago where our hospital in Seaside was cut off. And I forgot how long it was, 7 or 10 days. But the only way we stayed in touch with that hospital is from our hospital to their hospital using amateur radio.
Yeah. Well, I'm the community, my neighborhood, and it's a small neighborhood, but I'm the NC 3rd District
block captain, but I'm the emergency preparedness coordinator for all the block captains. I've got 16 block captains. We've got these radios, and I'm like, they're garbage because we have a hill in the way and we can't get over the hill. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually working on getting an upgrade of all the radios.
Or you need a repeater.
Well, that's the other thing is we don't have a house on the hill to be able to put a repeater where it'll work. And I'm trying to talk a guy into letting us do it on his property. And he's slow so far to give me the green light. But I feel like with time and cookies and maybe some baked goods, like cakes and stuff, he might say yes. More cookies. It's just more cookies. Cookies can solve anything but bleeding problems, is my opinion.
I tend to agree with that.
Well, and maybe some bigger medical emergencies. But cookies go a long way. Well, I want to thank you guys for being on. I mean, we're running up. We got about a minute or two left. We're running up on our time here, but I want to impress the importance of the two things that we've been talking about: first aid and communications. Yeah. If you're in an emergency and you need first aid and you don't have it, you will feel very alone and very, very vulnerable very fast. Yeah. If you don't have communications, it's the same thing. You'll feel very alone and very vulnerable very fast. And when you get into those places where you're worried and your fear will take over. And that's why as preppers, we really want to help people have a plan and have the tools so that they can move forward without having that sense of fear, not having that sense of panic that forces you into bad decisions. And I think, Shane, you would probably agree with that statement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I spend probably too much time planning, and I think spend more time practicing. And I think that's to find that balance and make a plan and then practice. Oh, it doesn't work. Let's revise the plan and then practice it. And you don't want to be practicing when you're in that emergency, when that situation, when you find out that either your ham radio setup isn't working or you didn't have the right things in your first aid kit and such. That's, I think, really what I want to focus on here this next month is the practice part of it.
That's a great point. How often do you guys get a chance to practice what you've planned?
So that's a good question. Beth and I have gone through some life events recently, and we moved. And Beth was just commenting that we have not been using our radios for a while. Mm-hmm. And this what I'd like to share with folks, people buy a radio and they put it away thinking it's a staple and you're prepared for yourself, but it requires practice. And the radios nowadays have so many menus. That's why they're so small and compact. And when you get on the radio and you've not used it for a while, you really struggle with how did I access that repeater? How did I access the simplex? Where's that menu? What's that number that I need to go to change that menu over so the radio will work? And unless you practice it, like you said, you're just not going to be efficient and be able to use it effectively when the disaster happens. Yeah. And I think Winston Churchill said, failure to plan is planning to fail. So you really have to practice, or maybe Benjamin Franklin, re-quoted by Winston Churchill.
Someone important said it at one point in time, and we should all heed it.
I've even said it.
Shane says it to me almost every day. He also likes to say we need to look to the past to prepare for the future.
Right. And I don't know how that applies in this situation because there weren't ham radios around very long ago, just mainly cans
radios
and string,
and communication have been around for quite a while.
Well, yes, but
and it's vital to long-term sustainability. Like when it's time to rebuild, we need those tools. Well, that's our music. We are out of time. Guys, go over to amp-3.net. Use the promo code SUMMER to save 15% on everything over there at AMP3. Follow them on Facebook, social media. Dave and Beth, thank you so much for being with us today.
Good to talk to you.
Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.
You too. Welcome back to Prepper Talk Radio. Radio for the ready-minded here at K-Talk, 1640 AM. And we're here every Friday, unless we're on vacation or disaster strikes. Unless we're not. We're here unless we're not.
Fortunately, you can make that decision. We're not compelled to be here for any reason whatsoever, and we do this of our own free will and
accord. If we're gone for a long time, something happened. Like
you can probably assume something.
You probably already saw the plume in the sky and the radiation fall.
That's probably what it's going to take to get us off the air.
Probably
for more than a couple of weeks.
We do this for fun, not for the money, because there is none.
There is none.
We're excited. We love Dave and Beth. We're grateful that they joined us for the first 40 minutes of the show. The last 20, the last 17 because they get cut out early. Really want to focus on, since it's National Preparedness Month starting tomorrow. We're getting a jump on it. It's Preparedness Eve, right?
There we go.
We want to talk about the 5 things never to do.
Never to do. So it kind of goes in contrast to the topic National Preparedness Month. Not necessarily in contrast, but this is a program created by FEMA and what is it? Ready.gov. So it's a government kind of sponsored program.
They're like, kind of get ready, but don't trust us.
We know what most of you preppers are going to say about that.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we want to talk about in the second segment. And it's kind of the reason to be prepared.
Right.
But if I could, Scott, I'd like to do a little shout-out.
Please.
If that's all right. It's been, I think, a year or so. Scott and I went to a little expo here locally. And I was something I bought that I use almost every day at that from that expo. And I don't want this to sound like a commercial because it's not. It's kind of one of Shane's favorite things, right? Let's call it the Shane's favorite things segment here. Maybe we should do this every week or something.
Shane's magical moment of favorite things.
No, don't go that way.
No?
Anyway,
sounds cool.
Anyway, it's called the Easy Yogurt Maker. EasyYogurtMaker.com. You remember that?
Yeah, that was last fall.
Yeah, so as I was going by the booth, it's this guy and his kids are at the booth here, right? And I was in a good mood, and I'm not usually up for it because I'm a sales guy, so I don't like to be sold, right? And so I'm wondering what this is, and it's how you make your own yogurt. You get a gallon of milk.
It's not just the yogurt because you can stop it early, and either way, it's probiotics, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's probiotics, exactly.
And that's the key is it's probiotics. So you
it's
can stop it earlier and just
gut.
have a thick kind of a smoothie. You can go farther and let it totally become yogurt.
And so I've been using this almost every day since I bought it, and I didn't think I would like it as much. So that's all I wanted to say was to plug it for the Easy Yogurt Maker. It's saved me a lot of money in buying store-bought yogurt, and
there
it's
you go.
It's better for you too.
Yeah, that does.
So EasyYogurtMaker.com.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
Well, okay, now
into the topic.
That's one thing you should do. Now we're getting back into things you should never do.
You should never do. So I guess as number one, well, let's see.
No, start with number one.
Let's start
with
number
one. We'll just go down the list.
Number one, and let me say first, these are from Pastor Joe Fox.
Okay.
Pastor Joe Fox, Viking Preparedness. I got these from him. I could have compiled my own list, but that takes time, right? So I'd like to lean on other preppers, and shut up. And
Get
so
to the point.
I wanted to give him props, Pastor Joe Fox.
8 minutes.
Okay,
left.
so number one, never assume you know everything.
Yes.
Never assume you know everything.
It's funny because people ask me things, and a lot of times I don't know the answer.
Mm-hmm.
Especially in the world of preparedness, it's impossible to be an expert on everything, right? But the same thing, with your job, with your life, like you can't know everything, but you can always know someone who knows what you don't know. And I think that's where be okay with not knowing everything, being humble, and being teachable.
And especially in an emergency or disaster scenario, if you assume you know everything and you make a bad decision, that could have much larger effects or ramifications.
If you allow your ego to take place of your brain, you're going to have some problems, right? You're going to live with that regret of making a bad decision based on ego alone.
Yeah.
So always, always, always remember you are a limited individual, and continue to learn, and continue to surround yourself with people that are amazing, great people that have knowledge you don't have.
And that's what I wanted to follow it up with is just always be learning. If there's something you realize, I don't know this, then learn about it, right? That's
absolutely.
what I try and do. All right, number 2, never allow yourself to be disarmed.
Oh.
And I think that's, first preppers, that's pretty basic,
Well, I think
right?
there's multiple layers to that, right?
Yes.
Disarmed as a nation, disarmed as an individual, disarmed in an attack scenario. Like, there's multiple ways you can look at that, and it always rings true and the same.
Yep. And I think what Pastor Fox meant in this list of his is when it comes down to the bigger picture of not allowing yourself to be disarmed. Standing up, and obviously things continue to happen around the nation, around the world that continue to call for taking away our gun rights, which are natural rights.
Well, it's
They're
interesting
God-given
because
rights.
then, you've got I just made up a pun in my head. I don't know if it's a pun or not, but it's a curse word. You've got all those little Antifa holes out there who have guns but want to take everyone else's guns away, and it's a weird logic. I don't understand it, but we have to. An armed society is a polite society.
Absolutely.
Right? There's a thing on the TV on the news just the other day. The sheriff was actually in Florida. Was saying, people are armed. Don't do stupid things. If people are armed, you won't do stupid things, or you'll be stupid and dead. Like that was the basic premise of what he said, and it is so true. Like, don't be stupid. Be armed. Be prepared.
And when you're armed, when you carry concealed, you are. And you should be, I know I am.
You better be.
You better be much more aware of your surroundings and of your responsibility.
Yes.
Your responsibilities, not just to yourself, but to your family and to those around you, because at that point you do have those responsibilities. Okay, number 3. And this ties into what we were talking about. We were talking a little bit about FEMA and such, and National Preparedness Month. So when you're prepared, you won't fear. When you're prepared, you don't have to get on the bus. So number 3 is never get on the bus.
Never.
And what I mean by that, and I think what Pastor Fox also meant by this is that, in particular, the FEMA bus, right? Don't get on the FEMA bus. Don't find yourself in a position to where you have no other choice because you don't have the resources, you don't have water, you don't have food, you don't have shelter to stay away from that situation.
Don't get on the bus. Don't get on the train, right?
There you
go. The most horrific experience in history, I think, is what happened to the Jews in World War II, right? They were herded onto trains like cattle. But first they were disarmed. First they were stripped of their rights, and it was in a ratio of like maybe 8-10 soldiers to a small family, right? And then they'd get them into these larger groups where they were completely unsure of what's going on and just being herded like cattle. Like
confusion.
It's hard once you've already gotten on the bus to change the path of where you're going. And I'm not trying to take anything away from them. I'm just saying, look at that as the experience. Try everything you can and everything in your power to avoid that happening to your family.
Yeah. And I think another aspect of it as well is in a kidnap situation, when you're going to be kidnapped or someone's trying to force you into a vehicle, you do whatever you can to not get in that vehicle. You fight until you die to stay out of that vehicle.
Well, it's like I watch National Geographic a lot, and I love to watch, when an animal's hunting another animal, you see a cheetah chasing after a gazelle, and that gazelle is fighting for its life. The cheetah is fighting for a meal.
It's fighting for its life as well.
You've got, well, no, not necessarily, because it can always chase something else. If the gazelle gets caught, it can't recover. Like, it's dead.
Yeah.
Right? So you're fighting for your life, or are you fighting for a meal? Always be fighting for your life.
Agreed. Okay. Number 4. Never stop improving.
Yes, I like that.
So kind of like, kind of never assume you know everything, never stop improving. And so this, especially when you don't have those resources directly in front of you, when you are under a stressful situation and you need your brain to work, those things automatically come to the forefront of your mind, and you know what to do through preparation and practice, through planning and preparation and practice.
Well, I think it goes also into, you just mentioned the practice and the planning, but it also goes into the, things may change, your situation may change, and so you can improve upon what you have, or maybe minimizing things that you're using because there's some redundancies there, or you don't need specific heavy, bulky, weighty tools and resources. Like if you can simplify,
absolutely.
That's also a type of improving, depending, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So as you evolve in your preparedness, you may change how you perceive things, or your knowledge base is so large that you can create your own tools as you go.
And in pretty much every situation, you can look at it. Say you've set up you've got a little prepper camp, and you set up your defensive position. There's always ways to continually observe and to adjust and to change and to improve that position in whatever your aspect may be.
Well, that's like, here's a shout out to a guy that we love that has helped with tools like that. So FITHOPS, FITHOPS, fithops.com. They have perimeter alarms that it's basically a shotgun blank. They also have
22,
or 22 blank. But they have these blank systems that you can put the trip line in. It goes off. Someone's there, because you can't always be looking 360 degrees, right? Like, you just don't have that field of vision,
or many people to
or enough
monitor,
people to monitor. Yeah, so it's observance, right? Observe what's going on. Observe what you're working with and what you're not working with, and utilize the tools to help simplify and improve your situation.
Yep. Now, Scott, do you want to give us the last one?
Yes, I do.
Go for it.
In honor of my parents, this is one of their favorite movies. It's also one of my favorite movies. A line from that.
I think it's strange.
It's awkward at best. It's a fun movie, but from Galaxy Quest. But we've changed it's never give up, but it's never give up, never surrender. So never give up, never surrender is number 5.
Got to have a little fun with it, right?
We have to. We're a radio show.
Yeah. So never quit.
Never quit. That's what the original is.
The Q word is, is kind of like the F word, right? Just never quit, never give up. Never say die, right? And I don't know that I truly understand that in its true meaning, unless you're put into a situation to where you get to the point where, okay, I could lose my life here, or I can fight for my life. I don't know that I'll truly understand that until I get into that type of position. But I think, as we've been talking over the last week or so, endurance, learning about endurance. And that's what what I'm delving into now is endurance in the kind of the running aspect and into the fitness aspect that way.
Well, it goes to the mental game.
Yep.
I mean, endurance of all things, right? Psychologically, the endurance. And I think also, like, don't give up. Don't quit prepping because things seem okay.
Yep.
Right?
Quitters never win.
Quitters never prosper.
Winners never quit.
And
Those are all cliches we've heard for
cliches,
forever.
But I think the application is what we need to focus on. Is there are certain things that it's okay to quit.
Yeah,
Smoking,
absolutely.
for one, is a great one to quit because there's more benefits to longevity.
Some jobs, absolutely.
Yep. Quit bad relationships, right? If it's a toxic person, whatever. But when it comes to preparedness, you don't quit. You keep moving forward. You keep trying. You keep learning. Like, it encompasses the first 4. Really, is what that is. It's encompassing the first 4. It's the creed that you need to write down, burn it into the wood, put it on top of your door frame. Like, never quit. Keep moving forward. Our country was founded on don't give up. I mean, when the Mayflower landed, it was not a pleasant time. But they wanted freedom more than they wanted death.
And then you look at back to, say, Cortez when he landed here in Americas, they burnt their ships.
Yeah.
There's no option for failure. You're moving forward. And so what can we do to kind of burn our ships to where we keep moving forward, regardless of where we might be able to turn back to and level of comfort behind us?
It's stay committed.
Yeah.
Be committed, stay committed. Don't give up.
That's not as easy as as maybe it sounds coming out of our lips here.
Well, and society makes it so it's easy to not be committed to anything.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You watch TV and it's going to tell you everything you don't need to be committed to. Oh, you don't like this? Give up. Oh, you don't like that? Switch it. Oh, you don't like your phone plan? Switch it. Well, there's certain things you can change. Oh, you don't like your wife? Switch it. No.
No.
You're love more. right? Live more, do more,
Yep.
be more, commit to yourself. You owe it to yourself by breathing, by living, to try to make the best out of everything that you're given, whether
Yes.
it's a good hand or a bad.
So if you're not familiar with Pastor Joe Fox, go to YouTube, follow Viking Preparedness, Pastor Joe Fox. He's a very smart older guy. He has a lot of experience, and that's one thing that I'm constantly doing. I'm constantly trying to learn, and trying to write all of our content would be very time demanding. So we do lean to our other fellow preppers for our ideas and our thoughts, and
Inspiration.
This is inspiration, absolutely. And this is one that really hit home for me, and really appreciate. I've been wanting to share this with you guys for a number of weeks now. So,
Well, that is, I think, the perfect way to end it. We're always learning. You always learn. We're out of time. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening on the download. You can download us and listen on the go wherever you are. Go to preppertalkradio.com and you'll access the entire archive there.
Connect with us on Facebook as well. We'd love to talk to you guys.
We will see you next week. We're going to be talking minimalists
With Tim Ralston.
and a 2-hour show.
Yes.